What if everything you've ever heard about becoming a Buddha is wrong? Like completely backwards. Today we're diving into a really radical interpretation from an author named Xu Feng, who argues that true enlightenment isn't about being moral, it's about abandoning the very idea of good and bad altogether. Yeah, it's a challenging idea, so let's get into it.
So, if I asked you right now, how do you become a Buddha? What would you say? I bet for most of us, a few very specific, very traditional ideas pop into our heads.
And yeah, those ideas probably look a whole lot like this list, right? Be a good person, do good things, hit the books, abstain from worldly stuff, maybe pray a lot, the standard playbook. And that is the established path. But according to the author we're exploring today, this approach isn't just a little bit off course. He says it's pointing in the completely wrong direction.
So this brings us to the first huge, mind-bending idea from this text. The path to becoming a Buddha has absolutely nothing to do with our human ideas of morality. In fact, according to this view, our whole obsession with good versus bad is the #1 thing holding us back. The author builds this on a quote from Master Bodhidharma, and it's simple but incredibly deep. To become a Buddha, you only need to perceive nature. Why? Because nature is Buddha. See how that just flips the whole script? The goal isn't to climb some ladder of human virtue. It's about letting go and just dissolving into the raw, unfiltered, non-judgmental reality of nature itself. And here's the real kicker. Those concepts we think are so important, good and evil, right and wrong, the author says they're actually a red flag. They're proof that you haven't perceived nature yet. If your mind is still caught up in judging everything, you haven't even taken the first step on the path. The text gives a great example to help wrap your head around this. Picture a peony blooming. You just see it. You experience its peoniness, right? You don't stand there and think, is this a moral flower? Is it a good flower or a bad flower? No way. You just see it for what it is. And in that moment, that pure, unfiltered perception, that, the author says, is seeing Buddha. And get this, the author even pulls in the story of Adam and Eve to make the point. The argument is that in the Garden of Eden, they were basically living like Buddhas. No judgment, just being. But then they eat the forbidden fruit. And what do they gain? Not just sin, but the knowledge of good and evil. They start judging, feeling shame, and bam, they're kicked out of paradise. In this interpretation, gaining a moral compass is what causes the fall from an enlightened state. It's wild.
Okay, so if morality is a trap, what about karma? What about the idea that good deeds get rewarded? Well, buckle up, because the text takes another hairpin turn here, and it's all about wealth. You've probably heard this idea before, right? That being born rich is like a cosmic reward for being a good person in a past life. Well, the author we're looking at says, nope, that's a massive misunderstanding.
And again, a famous quote is brought in to back this up, this time from Jesus. It is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for someone who is rich to enter the kingdom of God. The text just asks a simple, logical question. If it's that hard for a rich person to get into heaven, how on earth could wealth be a reward? The argument here is that it's not a reward at all. It's a wall. It's an obstacle pushing you away from where you want to go.
And this slide really lays out the twisted logic from the author's perspective. You want to know how heaven punishes someone? It gives them wealth and power, which just makes them complacent and lazy. And how does it reward them? By giving them poverty and hardship. Why? Because struggling, facing challenges, that's what builds the grit and determination you actually need to reach a higher state.
Okay, so morality is a distraction, wealth is a punishment. What's left? What's the real enemy on this path? According to the author, it's something much, much bigger. It's our attachment to what the text calls forms.
So forms, what does that even mean? Well, think of it this way. It's everything. Seriously. It's not just the stuff you can touch, like your phone or your house. It's your feelings, joy, anger, all of it. It's the rules of society, your job, your family. It's even the holy books you might study. And here's the radical part. The author claims that being attached to any of it is the source of all our pain. It's what keeps us stuck on the cosmic hamster wheel of reincarnation. The text actually breaks this down into 5 types, and they get more and more abstract as you go down the list. So you start with the easy ones, material forms, physical stuff. Then you've got mental forms, your emotions. That makes sense. Then it gets trickier. Dharma forms are things like societal rules, family, even religion itself. Then you have non-dharma forms, which are things like your personal ideals or even the scriptures. And finally, the big one, non-dharma forms. This is the bedrock of our thinking. Good versus evil, true versus false, life versus death. You have to let go of all of it.
So the takeaway is pretty intense. The goal is to become formless. The only way to get to the Pure Land, to become a Buddha, is to break out of this prison of attachments. A prison that includes everything from your favorite coffee mug to the very idea of right and wrong. Okay, so becoming formless, that sounds, impossible. How do you just let go of literally everything? Well, the author says there's a gateway, a single path to get there, and that path is called emptiness. So what is emptiness? The text describes it as a state where your sense of self, your awareness of your body, even your spirit, it all just dissolves. And it's really clear on this point. You can't describe it. You can't think your way into it. It's something that has to be experienced, and it's the one and only door to a higher state. Now, to try and give us a hint of what this feels like, the author uses a pretty provocative analogy. The feeling of emptiness is compared to sexual climax. The idea is that it's a moment where you are completely jolted out of the fog of your everyday mind. It's a moment where the you part of you just disappears.
And the point of the analogy isn't the physical act, but that feeling of total detachment. As the quote says, it's like leaving my body and leaving my spirit. Suddenly, all the things that seem so important, your worries, your to-do list, who you think you are, it all just vanishes. It's this moment of complete and apparently blissful self-loss.
All right, so if emptiness is the road you have to walk, what's at the end of it? What's the actual destination? What is the true nirvana that this whole path leads to? And this is super important because there's a seeming contradiction here. The state of emptiness, described as having no suffering, no wisdom, no attainment, it sounds kind of bleak, right? It just sounds empty. But the author clarifies, that's just the path. That's the vehicle, not the destination. The destination, called the Elysium world, is the complete opposite. It's a place of incredible freedom, total joy, and vibrant life.
And this all leads to the final big idea, the ultimate equation, if you will. The author concludes that all these different words we've been using are just pointing to the exact same thing. Emptiness equals formlessness equals selflessness. And that is ultimate nirvana. That is the Elysium world. That is the Tao. And that is Buddha. They're all just different fingers pointing at the same moon.
So this brings us to the final, haunting question that the source itself asks. If this is the path, why have so few people actually become a Buddha in thousands of years? And the text doesn't spell it out, but the answer seems pretty clear, because it asks you to let go of everything that makes you feel human. Your sense of right and wrong, the things and people you love, even the feeling of being you. So the question isn't just an ancient philosophical one. It's a question for you. Right now, could you do it? Could you let it all go?